behalf the Dean, Interim Dean, and Dr. Hemsley, to welcome everyone to this and to the College of Natural Science and Mathematics virtual keynote speaker event today. The event is co-hosted by the Carlson Center and the College of ASM. And Abhita Batra, and the CEO and the director of Ultimate Genetics, is our keynote speaker. I'm so excited and so glad. And she accepted our invitation to take her busy schedule out to be with us today. I'm super excited. Thank you so much. And it's not easy for her. And also, as you know, this week is in a Global Entrepreneurship Week. And before I formally introduce the keynote speaker, I'd like the executive director of Carlson Center, Cameron Law, to say a few words about the global entrepreneurship and the Carlson Center itself. Go ahead, Cameron.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Yinfa, and thank you for the partnership. I always enjoy working with you and the College of NSM. It's always such a pleasure to work with you, and excited about the conversation that we have in store. As Yinfa shared, my name's Cameron Law, and I'm the Interim Executive Director at the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I'm also serving as the Sacramento organizer for the Global Entrepreneurship Week. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about the Carlson Center, as I know it's a still up and coming resource on the campus. So we serve as a regional hub and platform for providing approachable and accessible entrepreneurial education, community, and support to enable startup founders and students of all backgrounds to explore and launch their business. So we really have this mission to make innovation and entrepreneurship pervasive throughout the greater Sacramento region, and have this vision to make the greater Sacramento region a premier hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. And so we really want you to know that we're a resource for you on campus as well as off campus, and really providing you with support along that entrepreneurial journey. So we offer 3 core sectors of programs, which are Discover, Build, and Launch. Global Entrepreneurship Week falls under our Discover programs, which really focus on building those on-ramps and that inspiration to take a next step on your idea. We really want to be there for you when you kick off that entrepreneurial journey and be part of those future stages of building and launch it. As it pertains to Global Entrepreneurship Week, I want to start off by just saying it is indeed global. It's not just a term we're putting in front of it. Today, we're joining over 180 countries around the world in a week-long celebration of innovation and entrepreneurship. We have a variety of events, activities, networking opportunities, pitch competitions taking place. And for me, I just love having students, faculty, investors, entrepreneurs, startup champions, all in one space, really supporting innovation and entrepreneurship and the role that it plays in our community. And particularly, I'm looking forward to this conversation and hearing from Abhita, particularly around how she's commercialized some technology and really solving core problems in our world. And I'm really excited and I'm proud of the partnership we have with the College of NSM. So I'll kick it on back to Yinfa, and thank you for the opportunity to partner on this fun week.
Oh, thank you, Cameron. Appreciate it and for the partnership. Let's go ahead. It's time to introduce our keynote speaker, Abhita. So I just mentioned briefly, then we'll carry the conversation. And Ms. Abhita Batra, and currently serves the Chief Executive Officer, called CEO, and the Director of Ultimate Genetics. And Abhita is also the founder and Managing Director of Advanced Biopharma Consulting, or called ABC, and a strategic advisory firm that offers business development and commercialization service to life science companies. That means if some of you, the student, want to start a company, she can be a really good advisor on your board. And previously, Abhita served the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing at Ethnic Group of Companies, where she managed a product portfolio of over 150 generics. She's also a co-founder and former CEO of Nevera, and a biotechnology company developing and commercializing PHF of destruction of solid tumor. And Abhita has raised over $100 million for companies in biotech and pharma area, and is advisor to several life science startup and funds. Abhita completed her global executive MBA at UCLA and Anderson and in US. Probably everybody know it's a very famous in a business school, and has a master's in biotechnology and with specialization in pharmaceutical science from University of Pennsylvania, or called UPenn. And Abhita also recently featured by in Forbes India and NASDAQ Entrepreneurial. So today, and she will talk about how she become a science entrepreneur and her pathway to be CEO of Ultimate Genetics. And during her presentation, you can really write down your questions in the chat section, and when reach the Q&A time, and she will answer your question one by one. Of course, you can also raise your question during the Q&A time to ask questions as well. So, Abhita, and thank you, and to be the keynote speaker. I know many students and really want to learn from you, and they want to be a future science entrepreneur in the future sometimes. So they want to learn your pathway and your story. And so for that reason, start, and if you can share with us about your own pathway to be a science entrepreneur, and what it will take to transform science and research into commercialization. And I know I have introduced some, but I'm sure they want to hear from you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank everyone here for having me as their keynote speaker. It's been amazing, just being a part of multiple companies and always, being a part of academia in some way or the other. I'm excited to be here to share my story with you, hoping that some of you, would feel that might inspire you to be an entrepreneur in the future. Well, I come from a background of business. I mean, since I've been born, I've seen businesses grow. But having said that, having that business acumen, it comes not only when you're a part of business family, but as you grow, either you have it or you don't, or you learn to adapt to have it in you. I would say, when I was growing up, I actually, would see business deals happening, and that became the norm of my life. I thought that's how it is. And when I grew up, I started working pretty early in my life at the age of 16, 17. I was basically looking at how the production could be managed, how the formulations could be done better, what more could be introduced to the company to make sure we are producing more than 100, 200,000 capsules or injectables a day. So improvising the technology and machinery and making sure that the labor is getting heard, and providing them food at the facilities, and providing them mode of transportation. That was a good start for me, just by caring for those people who are working for you, not thinking that they're working for you, but in a way you're working for them, because if you think like that, that's when the business starts growing. And that was when I was very young, and I basically improved the quality, production, formulation departments, and of course the productivity of the company. That's how I got the start. But of course, I continued my education. I got my bachelor's in engineering in biotech in the process. And of course, being in a generic business, you would think it would get mundane, but it actually does not, because every day you have a new problem that comes your way. And I was excited to learn how to find a solution to that. And that kept going on. And my parents thought maybe I'll outgrow it, and it's just a phase, maybe a few years down the line, but it never did. And I became more excited about the innovation and the technology, how to do more things than we know of. And that's when I was inspired by Biocon's CEO in India, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, who was actually the first women role model that we actually had at that point in time. And it became quite exciting to maybe find a way to incorporate biologics into the world. And yeah, that's when I started getting more excited on to, how do I learn more? And that's when I thought I should come to US. I should do my master's here in biotech. And while I was working, um, I basically thought learning what technology is and learning what I could do in on the innovative side was very much a need for me more than anything else. So yeah, I came here, did my master's in biotech, worked in different labs, just like any one of you. Worked on 3 different projects. I think I've worked pretty much, all the time at that point in time. And yeah, got really good insight on various technologies of where we were producing, or I should say, working with liposomal products and working with HPLCs, working with all sorts of different technologies. And one of my paper that came out, during the coursework was on P53 mutations in lung cancer. So I was one of the co-authors on the papers, and that really made me think, I should get into oncology. And that's when, I set up a 40,000 square feet facility in India, which is actually one of the top most facilities in northern India right now. And we not only have around 100 200 distributors, and we work with hospitals now for oncology, but we expanded our antibiotics across Southeast Asia, Latin America, and we set up multiple facilities. And our oncology facility is actually one of the top facilities in northern India. And we do manufacture for ourselves, but for the top tiered companies that you can think of as well there. Having said that, I always, as I said, generic was in my blood, but biotech was something that I wanted to do. And so yeah, I got involved into multiple companies as an advisor to the CEOs. Some of them you might know of are Sun Pharmaceuticals, Venky's, in animal health, and Cardinal Health, and some of the big companies in Latin America and Europe, for example, Chimo, Bago, Bioprofarma, and whatnot. But it was exciting to learn what they were offering and how we could introduce products there, and how we could be a part of the revolution that it was of introducing new products in different markets. Having said that, I think the advisory company that we have, ABC, that became the first company in US for me. And, we were able to take on multiple projects and work with different companies and get involved in multiple aspects in animal health, women's health, human health, as well as device space. So yeah, that became very exciting. And, I was always getting offers to be on boards of different companies, be an advisor, be, a part in some way or the other as an equity holder. And that's when I started looking at things more carefully. And yeah, I've taken up certain roles here and there. I've co-founded a couple of companies thereafter. And in certain, I do take active role, and in certain companies, I do take a passive role and let the CEOs drive it. And I'm always there to advise them and have their backs. But the company that I'm currently actively involved in is called Automagnetics. And that company is actually based in Boston and Maryland right now, and is offering a non-invasive drug delivery mechanism to better and targetedly and locally basically deliver the drugs to hard to reach target indication. This is all done non-invasively, and we want to deliver the drugs within 10 minutes to the target indication. And we have around 60 patents right now on the technology, and we're growing. Definitely, there's a lot can be done in the years to come, but yeah, we're pretty excited about the technology.
Great. Thank you. That's really wonderful information in our people here, because even I myself, in working at university many years, we do science, doing research, and sometimes we feel our research really can be commercialized, and I feel really good products.
Right.
But we publish many papers, but there are many hurdles. In your opinion, I just wonder, can you tell the audience, what are the major challenges to transform science and research into reality, or to commercialize them?
Absolutely. I think that's a good question. So, as you know, I was at UPenn, right? So, while I was at UPenn, of course, I was looking at technology transfer agreements and the technology transfer offices, and I was looking at the research that I could license and work while working on multiple things. And I think there are a couple of bottlenecks that every entrepreneur face. Firstly, if you're not able to find the research that you're passionate about, it's very hard to take it through the whole process of founding a company, to getting it funded, to hiring the right employees, and to commercialize it. Secondly, I mean, we need to have the right team, and having the right team is the most important thing, according to me. For all right, so the third thing that's the most important thing is, I think you should look at, okay, everything and anything that can go wrong will go wrong, okay, in most of the companies. So what you think, what you should do is basically try to de-risk yourself as much as you can. And that's where we come in contact with the right people in our company. We should have the right advisors who can help you not only manage the technology and de-risk the technology the way it is, and more importantly, help you find the right people who can not only invest in the company, not only work together with you in finding the solutions that you'll have a lot of problems taking the technology from the bench to the market. So yeah, there would be a lot of issues. And if you can work with the technology transfer officers, that's a big thing too, right? You have to have an agreement in place. And for example, certain people, I'll tell you, they feel that they're not ready at a young age. And I think everyone is. If you feel passionate about it, then you are. And then the fourth, I mean, the most important thing, your family should be in it for good. Okay, I'll tell you, you'll see my son running around here and there every now and then. He'll come here and talk to me in my meetings as well. You should be okay with it, right? That's the thing. I mean, your kids should know, and you should be okay. Okay, every now and then you scold him in front of people. You should be okay about it too. But I think what you need to do is have everyone involved in the process with you. Be okay with the imperfection that it is.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really and awesome. And I'm sure you have much more experience than any one of us. When you build a company, there's some risks, right? And I'm sure some of our students, they want to start a company after graduation, and they know. And I just wonder, and how really, what is really inspire you to be an industry leader, and how do you really go through the risks in starting or build a company? The risk factor is the way, it's a factor scares so many people away. Even though they have a novel idea, so they want to do it, they are afraid of they're going to run in debt if you want to start a company, if they fail.
Right. See, I think it's all about having that confidence in you, okay? Because you have to believe in yourself. There is nothing more than that. You have to believe that if anyone else can do it, you can do it too. And more importantly, you have to go out. You have to be ready to face the failures. You have to be really thick-skinned when it comes to it. Because not everyone's going to invest in you. Not everyone would believe in you. Not everyone would invest in the technology. So either you change the path, or you cannot change the technology. You have to find a way. You have to find a way to convince others to invest in you. And that's by de-risking yourself. De-risking as much as you can is important. But having said that, with biotech, with healthcare, it's inevitable to completely eliminate the risk. So maybe you're not, if no one's investing in you, you're not reaching out to the right people. So having the right investment group around you, right, the right advisory folks who introduce you to the right investors, is the most important thing, I would say.
Oh, that's really awesome. And Okay, so right now, let's talk about go to your company as in specific. And what insight can you share about career path in your in a company or industry or pharmaceutical industry in general? Talk about what's a specific and hard or soft skill or specific experience that would help a recent graduate and they can stand out in an organization, or does your company provide any internship or employment opportunity for our student?
Right. So I think that's a good question, right? What soft skills should they have to get into this role? I think anyone who has a great EQ, who can manage the relationships. You have to be people's person because honestly, if you don't like people, I would say don't do the entrepreneurship because you're constantly meeting people, right? And that's because this is they say we are doing business, but it's all about managing the emotions in a way that you can manage yourself, and more importantly, you can manage your business thereafter and give it that vision and the culture that it needs for it to grow. So I think that's the most important thing. But having said that, the education, any education that you might have in biotech or in pharma space or in healthcare, whichever way because whatever you're starting, whatever the product is, whatever the technology is, you need to learn a bit about it. So either you learn through the process of education, or you educate and learn on your own about it, and become an expert in it, and have the right people around you to support you through the process. So it has to be, you for example, if you have been in biotech and you've been in labs, you work there, you know how hard it gets sometimes with R&D. You need to know that. Okay, you need to know how easy things are or how tough things are for you to actually empathize with the fact and celebrate when you succeed. So all those things are very much necessary. And having said that, I think it's important that you know the basics, right? When you're fundraising, you should know how to write a business plan, you should know how to write an executive summary, you should know how to write the financials, you should be able to communicate how great a technology it is, and more importantly, how great an opportunity it is for the folks that you're presenting to, because they're always looking at ROI. And if you're able to communicate that, and some of it is taught in business courses and some of it is not. So I would say, just take a business course at a great university like yourself. And if you can do that, that's great. You always have executive courses. Even Sac State offers certain courses, which I'm sure the kids can enroll themselves in. But yeah, I think education is very important, and I wouldn't deny that, because I was looking at the fact somewhere, and it said like 10 to 12% of Forbes top 100 CEOs are not, or I should say, they did not complete the education, but rest of them they did. So I would say the probabilities of your success, they increase substantially if you have the right education, and hence the skills that would basically help you establish the company, then have the right people who complement your skills.
Thank you. That's a really valuable information and to our students. So, because I just want to piggyback and on your information, because a lot of our science majors, they get in degree in science field, and they have some really knowledge or very novel idea to start business. Do you recommend to get MBA as well to manage their company, or they just can get along on the way in the future? They can get a management skill in the future, or when they run a company.
Right.
What do you say?
I think when you start a company, at that point in time, it's driven by the idea. Okay, so when you are taking that idea and developing that technology, at that point in time, there isn't that much of a need to think about getting an MBA. But I would say it's never too late to get those business skills if you can. And if you can do an MBA along the program, or I should say along the establishment of the business, great. If you can't, then just do a CTO course with any university, or do a business course with a university. It's actually very easy to continue that along with the work, because you get those skills that you need along with the skills that you already have. So I would say, it doesn't hurt. It's always going to help you hone yourself.
Thank you. That's awesome. And so right now, you know that, and we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I just wonder, and what advice do you give to our students as they navigate to the job market as a new graduate student, especially right now during the middle of pandemic? And
Right.
so because you are the industry leader, what advice can you give to them?
Well, I think this is a great opportunity for everyone in pandemic to actually connect with people out there, because it levels your platform, honestly. Because right now in pandemic, no one is meeting anyone face to face as much as they did. I mean, of course, one on one, people are meeting here and there with the masks on. But having said that, even that's not enough. Like literally, I was on plane a lot, and I haven't traveled quite a bit this year. Having said that, what I mean to say is go on LinkedIn, find people who have the right experience that you're looking to add on your advisory board, or folks who can invest in you, or folks who can introduce you to other people, or go to the networking events, go to the speaking engagements that are happening with your school or with your college, or even meet your friends and family. Those friends and family, they have good jobs, and they have great friends. So those are the people you want to talk to, and tell your skill set, and maybe get some opportunities from them. But friends and family are always a good start. Then talking to your professors, because those are the ones who know you very well. And in fact, I've mentioned this to you before as well. At UPenn, before founding ABC, I got my first job at Merck, and that was through UPenn. And that was interesting, right? I mean, you have to, sometimes it works out for you, and sometimes you have to fight harder. But you always have to work on yourself, and you cannot just sit in a room, and not talk to anyone, but give your friend a call, let them know that you're looking for a job. So yeah, find ways, connect with people through networking events, and you'll find a way out.
Thank you. That's a really and valuable information or advice to the students. So,
Thank you.
and so you have gone through the whole process to start business, and right now, and probably they want to hear, and what do you wish you had known to launch a career when you were a student? So because a lot of them, they are students right now. What do you say? Probably they want to know more. When you're a student, how do you reach your status? What do you do?
Right. I think I was way too passionate to think anything else. I'm being honest with you. I think that was my daily conversation with my husband, and at that time we were dating. And when you want to change the world, and when you want to create new things, that's all you talk about. And when you talk about that, you find ways, you connect with people, and that's how I founded ABC. And I actually was all my business that came into in ABC was through referrals. So people had started to know me in Latin America, and Europe, and Northern America, based on my referrals. So one thing led to the other, and that's how the company grew. That's how I got the project, and that's how I introduced the licensing deals, and negotiated the projects for them. Having said that, of course, I became a part of a consulting, or I should say, I partnered with a consulting firm which was managing, I think, investing $2 billion in North America and Asia in some of the projects, and I was providing them the deal flow for a $6 billion fund where they were managing a $2 billion portfolio. So it all comes. I mean, for me, it was all referrals. For me, it was all about, one person knew me, they referred me to the other, and they liked what I was doing and the success that I was achieving. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, and because as I mentioned to you already, in the last year and this year, the college-wide, we have really college-wide called pitch competition. And students, faculty, they can pitch about their business ideas. I think Cameron was there as well. And I feel some ideas so novel, so great. So in your opinion, how do they really find investors to really give them money to start business? Any advice?
Right. So I would say go out and look for all the competitions that are happening right now. Of course, you guys had a pitch competition too, right? But I can even refer you to a lot of, small groups that fund the ideas that come through from the university. Of course, people will be looking at what is your agreement with the university, what sort of licensing agreement you have with the university, and I'm sure companies or those folks will be able to provide it. But having said that, there are funds available in different states, in different cities, that could be explored as well. Not everyone is in California, and not everyone wants to live in California. For example, I'll tell you about my company, which is in Montgomery County in state of Maryland right now. So we do have a lot of support from the state of Maryland. Montgomery County does support us too. And, we did get some funding from the state in the beginning. And, of course, the company has grown. I would recommend, if you want to look at state of Maryland, you should look at it. They do provide incentives. And there are many other states like that provide incentives like that. And I think if you want to look at certain conferences, go online and search for the investor conferences that are happening right now. And some of those conferences you would like, I think, because not every investor funds an early stage company, but there are certain funds that only invest in research or the students. For example, there is a alumni group, AVG, that basically encompasses all the small funds for different universities. And I'm sure I can, introduce that concept to Sac State as well, and we can have a small fund of Sac State that can become a part of AVG, which would mean that not only would Sac State folks invest in the companies that you like, but for further investments in those companies, AVG and other groups in AVG can come together and bring some follow-on funding. So that's something that could happen as well. But having said that, there are a lot of small investors that I know of. And we all want to invest. So by the end of the year, me and my husband, we decide, okay, which companies do we want to invest? Which funds do we want to invest? So there are a lot of folks like that in California, especially. That's the advantage of living in California and Silicon Valley, that people are always looking for exciting opportunities to invest in. And if you have some interesting, just send them my way. I'd be happy to maybe invest in them or bring other people on.
Thank you. That's really awesome. Really, really wonderful. And because sometimes they have novel ideas. The idea may not go anywhere if there's no money to proceed. So right. That's the key. Really wonderful major hurdles. I have one more question before I open the floor to the audience for more questions. And basically, this is a closing question from myself. And what career advice do you really give in general to the audience here and today? And that's my question, because
Right.
sometimes I may miss, so you may have something important in your mind, and you can, use the opportunity to give to
Right.
the.
Well, I think the most important advice that I ever got in my life is never say never, and most importantly, never take no as an answer. No might mean no for now, right? I mean, but things could change at any point in time, and that's validated in every step of my life, not only personal but professional as well. In professional life, of course, in certain cases, some investors want to invest in you right now, and some say no to you and then reinvest in you a few years later or a few months later. So, it all depends on how you take adversity in your life, or how optimistic you stay, and how persistent you are with the continuing effort in your life. So I would say, just stay excited about what you're doing in life. Continue doing, have the persistence and the grit to achieve what you want to do and be what you think you can be, because it's always possible. It just needs some sacrifices, and it needs some support from the right people. And I think where there is a will, there is a way, right? So.
Awesome. That's great. And I think it's that's all the question and I have right now. It's great. Basically, I just use this one in to start the conversation right now, and I'm gonna open the question to the audience. And I know there's some questions from chat. I will let audience to proceed with the questions already raised. Then you can either continue submit the questions through the chat, or you can raise your hand, ask for questions. Go ahead, Arlene.
Okay, we have a question from Jared. Great presentation, Abhita. What are some normal ranges or types of licensing deals with a university for tech, say patent, that needs to go through a few more stages of validation, such as equity, royalties, etc.?
Right. I think a typical deal is you give some equity to the university, and then you, of course, have certain milestone payments. Because, of course, if you have a patent with the university, depending on when you convene those patents, you'll have to pay for those, patent costs till you completely convene the patent. But yeah, that's one thing, you'll have to keep paying the university till you take it all over. And equity that's given to the university is very minimal typically, so it's not that big a deal, but they do provide the resources that come with it. So I think it's a good idea to do that, right? You always give royalties to them when you commercialize the product, which helps the universities when you succeed. So your success is their success. So why not? I think you should give minimal equity, as much as you agree with the university, and then decide the milestone payments, and have some royalties for them. And
Excellent.
basically, get involved with their resources. So, yeah.
Very good, thank you. And then another question from Arjun. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you, Abhita, for the amazing presentation so far. I was wondering, during the team building process, what kinds of expertise beyond technical expertise are you looking to include to form a successful team?
Well, I think this is interesting because, see, as I said, having a good EQ is very important, right? I mean, basically having that culture, and defining that culture, that everyone in the company has that attitude of working with each other. In certain cases, of course, when you're doing a research in your lab, in your room, you don't need to be you don't need to interact with others, but in certain cases you should know how to have a good communication with your teammates. You need to know how to resolve conflicts. You need to know how to get excited for their success. You need to know how to make them part of your success. And then again, help the company wear as many hats as you can if you're a part of startup, or basically take the opportunity to grow as much as you can in the company. You have to be out there. You have to be, you have to be, I should say, you should learn through the process.
That sounds good. I have a question, actually.
All right. Go ahead.
As a scientist and someone who has been so successful with her career, what challenges did you have, or were there any, relative to being a woman in this field?
I think that's a good question, right? Being a woman, I think it's been a little difficult in a way, but I would say not difficult, but challenging. But I would say, that's normal, right? When you're growing up, you kind of know that's what you're going to face, because look at the number of women that you have in science and number of people or women you have thereafter. But the good thing is those numbers are changing, and I
Yes.
think those numbers have grown so much, and US is one of the top few countries where women have as much an opportunity to be an entrepreneur as any other world or any other country, or more than that, I would say, because it's not that tough as it is in other regions. But having said that, I think, as I said, I have a very supportive family. I did my MBA, Global Executive MBA, when my son was only 2. And so, my husband supported me, my family supported me. Not only that, my husband was doing his weekend executive program at that point in time as well. So we learned to understand how to grow, and we learned to understand how the journey should be. And I think it was pretty exciting, because not only did I learn as a mother to be empathetic towards other people, and understand that they have a family too, while meeting their professional obligations. So that makes me more connected to them in the process. But I'm one of those who accept that it's okay sometimes to be wrong, and it's okay if you're imperfect at certain situations, because everyone is, right? So I'm like, okay, you fail once, you pick yourself up and you go out again and do it again. So I'm one of those who believe that you have to support not only yourself, you have to support the people around you. You're as strong as your weakest link, and that's the norm I go with. And I think the day you have that sense of entitlement, that's when you start going down. But it's always about being of course, a leader is a leader till you have the followers. But having said that, I think you have to be supportive, so that you can build that community for yourself that supports you. And I think that's what it is.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like the team building starts with your immediate support group.
Well, I guess so. I think it's always good to ask for help, right? I mean,
Definitely.
and that's one thing you should learn: ask for help.
Definitely. I think there was also an indication of your orientation from never taking no for an answer to
Right.
definitely persistence. Here's another question. In your opinion, what are the key phrases of development or milestones in the process of taking an idea and building a business around it?
Right. I mean, it's a very standard question, because these key milestones or the development phases, they start from having an idea in your head to talking to the university, looking at the research, how far along the research is, and then getting the license in place, and then building the team around it. And then, of course, going out and raising funds with the investors. I mean, I missed one thing. You have to incorporate the company before you reach out to the investors, right? You need to have a good law firm, a legal counsel. You need to have a good patent attorney who can help you through the process. And you can, of course, even if you're a small team, and if you have the right people, and if you have the right advisors, I think you've won half of your battle there. And then it's all about getting the funds and getting the right research to the right to the major inflection points for you to keep raising the funds and keep continuing to succeed.
Excellent. Thank you. Has anyone else any other questions?
Any questions?
Cameron?
Raise your hand.
Yeah, I have a quick question. It's at Sac State, we're in the process of building out our technology transfer office, and I'm curious of some of your experiences in working with that. What would be some of the things to be looking for in building that to make it an entrepreneurial or entrepreneur-friendly experience?
Well, I think that's a great question, because that tells me that you guys want to work with the students or the entrepreneurs that want to take the technology out. So I would say having a technology transfer office is a great idea, and having those people work with you and work with the students, and basically try to understand how much money do they have up front, because most of these people won't have that much of a money upfront. And I would say reduce that upfront cost if you can, and take a little bit more of equity if that makes more sense to you. Provide them as many resources as you can, connect them to the industry folks who can guide them. And you guys are already doing the pitch competitions where you're sponsoring the winner, and that's a good incentive, but I think technology transfer offices typically, they give that incentive to the folks to start a company. So I would say if it's easier for them to get an agreement in place, you'll have more companies coming out. The turnaround time of execution of the agreement should be shorter if it could be.
There's another question.
I do. I see that. Thank you. Is it possible to start or run a business if you already have a job?
All right. I think you're in California, so the answer is yes. You can. And till you're working on your business in your own time, you can.
Okay.
Any more questions? Let me ask a question, and I asked a lot of questions. I have one more question, and I think I forgot to ask. And I saw Dave was here. Thank you, Dave. Dave, welcome. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Haven't seen you for a while.
Sorry, I came in late. I had another meeting I had to be at.
Thank you for your support. Means a lot to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for what you're all doing.
All right, doing great. Okay, Abhita, my question is, if say a student has an idea and to really good idea, science and idea to transform science into business, should that person start with SBIR grant, with the ASF or NIH or a DOD or whatever? That's a investment forum.
Right. Yinfa, we, even in our company, we've raised around $10 million, and we work with SBIR, NIH, NCI, and we've gotten money from them. So yeah, you should look at SBIR, and you should look at, what sort of research they are funding right now. You should look at it. But the only thing is, when you're filing for these grants, you need to have a PI who has a history of getting the grants, who has the experience in those areas or in those fields for you to work with them, so that they could guide you through the process of getting a grant. And all the government agencies, they have a good memory. So I would say you should have the right people to write these grants before you go in. You shouldn't just write it for the heck of it. You should be prepared. And as I said, if you want some guidance, I'd be happy to help.
Good. Yeah, I think we have a couple questions coming in.
Thank you. All righty. Let's see here. I want to keep track of where I'm at. How about in terms of formulating an idea for a business, how far along does the research on the technology behind the business need to be before you can start reaching out to investors?
Well, that's a good question, right? I mean, the company can be in the preclinical stage right now. When you go public, I'll tell you one thing. The public market right now has a huge there's a huge gap. There's a huge demand of early stage companies, even in public market. So people are raising funds not only in private market but also in public market. So it all depends on your idea. If your idea is in immunotherapy, then of course, you guys can go public at a very early stage and raise money through the public market. Having said that, your idea should at least have the proof of concept established for them to know that this works in animals. If I'm talking about healthcare idea, right? It could be anything related to biotech, or it could be anything related to drug, or anything. If it has a proof of concept, it's easy for you to demonstrate. And if you have an idea on a device, you should know how you're going to do it. And getting a prototype in place would be a good idea as well. So you can work with, if you can do it yourself, great. If not, have yourself get calibrated in a way that you have a company that can at least build a non-GMP prototype for you. And you can go out and show the investors this is what it is, and raise money through them.
Excellent, thank you. And here we have from Nathan, thank you so much for your presentation. I am a biology student at Sac State, and I have a lot of interest in pursuing graduate school and entrepreneurship within my field and interests. I find it difficult to identify one avenue to pursue. How do you single out an idea and interest to focus on?
Well, I think that's that's a good thing, that you have multiple interests and you have multiple ideas to play with. You'll have to do feasibility analysis on those ideas. You have to do SWOT and figure out what would work and what won't. Think about the market opportunity that you have with those ideas. Is it $1 billion market that you're going to capture, or is it going to be something which is a very small market, or it's a small market, but that product can be launched right away, then of course you go for it. So it all depends on how you want to pursue, and more importantly, how much risk taking capability do you have, because you need to have that patience to develop that idea and take it to market, right? So you need to know how you're going to start and how you're going to end. And for that, you need to have the right documentation that you have to prepare. So you need to have that skill set as well in play. And just do that feasibility analysis, and I'm sure you'll get your answer.
That's good. And my executive director, Cameron Law, also recommends that you circle back to the Carlson Center, where you can flesh out ideas, talk to him, talk to the entrepreneurs in residence, and we would love to hear about your ideas and get you started.
All right, thank you. And any questions from the audience?
I'll ask another one. So as it pertains to the entrepreneurial mindset, I'm curious of kind of what's some of your thoughts of, what does the entrepreneurial mindset mean to you, and kind of how have you, either pivoted or used that mindset to see opportunity in a different way that maybe other people might not see?
Well, I think the entrepreneurial mindset, I've had it since I was born. So, it's very, that's how I think, right? I mean, you cannot turn me off, right? I mean, I think like that. But having said that, I think you've heard this. If you hang out with 5 people and 4 of them are entrepreneurs, there's a high probability you'll end up being one. Okay. So it all depends on your group, on the people that you hang out with, and the advisors that you have, which is very important in your life. So it all depends. If you want to learn to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur, go to these, pitch events, hear the ideas that people have to say, do the risk analysis on your own. Think about if you want to be a part of those ideas or not, and then maybe work with Cameron, and he can bring those ideas, to the table, and he can get them funded. But let me know if you guys need some guidance. I'd be happy to help you. And I'm always looking, as I said earlier, I'm always looking at investing new ideas, and happy to help.
Wonderful. Thank you. Here's another one. As an investor, what kind of markets and risks are the least appealing and why?
Right. Well, I guess being an entrepreneur and being in healthcare, I've always invested in healthcare. That's something we've done. We did invest in sports as well. And that company might get bought out next year. But, I am personally more inclined towards healthcare. All my opportunities are in healthcare. Even the funds that I'm a part of, they invest in healthcare. So I think that's what my inclination is.
Excellent. That's your area of focus. That makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Very good. All right, Dr. Ma.
And
Abhita.
well, first of all, and any more questions from audience? I have a lot of questions, but I want to make sure the audience has a question to ask questions. Any more? I know some of you want to start a company. I know that.
Yeah.
Looks like Jared has a question.
I have a million questions, really. And some of my questions might be kind of overly specific. You maybe picked that up from the last one, because we're kind of halfway down this path to starting a company right now. So first of all, I'd love to connect with you after this. I was just typing a message to you there, so maybe we can connect afterwards. But since I have you here, we are probably going to be applying for an SBIR grant, but the timing of getting the patent deal and then applying for an SBIR grant and then forming an entity, kind of working out the best actual timing for that. If you have any thoughts on that.
So have you filed for provisional already, or is this your idea, or do you have patents on the idea already?
So the patent is owned by Missouri S&T, which is Dr. Ma's former university, actually, and I'm working with one of his former graduate students on this. And did you mean, have we filed articles of incorporation?
No, firstly, if the patents are already there, and if you're working with the university, which is the technology transfer office, then I'm assuming you have the licensing deal in place with them.
We do not yet. So we would have to.
So that's the first thing you should work on. If you cannot do it, then of course, University of Missouri is, or the lab where the technology is right now, will be filing the SBIR grants. My idea would be to incorporate the company or have a Delaware C Corp. I can help you with that. It's very easy to do it. It's a one-day job to get the company in place. And I think California charges you $800 or something to maintain the company, or maybe a little more, and Delaware has some fee. But having said that, it doesn't cost much, to be honest with you, to get a C Corp in place. And then, work with the licensing, office to get the arrangement done. And thereafter, of course, you'll be raising funds. And for that, you'll be preparing the documentation. And but you can always have an arrangement with the university that they continue to do the research till you raise the funds enough to take the company out. And that's something that you should think about. And sometimes University of Missouri, talk to them. I worked with a lot of universities, but sometimes some universities agree to that and sometimes they don't. And the trade-off is the equity. But having said that, there are creative ways of doing things. And as you said, honestly, I'd love to talk to you. We can share thoughts, and happy to help.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, there's a lot of little details, and we can go over it all, but everything you said is very applicable to me right now. So thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abhita. Any other questions from the audience? It's a good opportunity to learn from an expert. I have a question while in some audience maybe formulate questions along the way. I know that to start a company, I think a team building is really, really crucial. I see some really small company failed is not because of the technology, it's because of the team. And they had different opinions and they want to go different direction. So in your opinion, what kind of characters are you looking for when you build a team for your company?
Well, I think honestly, I would say you said it right. Most of the companies fail if the team doesn't want to work together, or if they have differences. But having said that, if you're good at what you're doing, and if you're passionate, founder or a co-founder, you will find a way to make it work. You will find a way, even if someone wants to step out along the way. You have to make it easy for them to go out and do something else that they're passionate about. So it all depends on being creative with that, because not everyone's going to be a part of that process for every step of the way. Because sometimes you're good in the first phase of the company, where it's all about excitement and that adrenaline rush that comes with it, and you grow, right? Sometimes it all depends on what stage you are with the company, and how hard it gets or how easy it gets. Or some people stick with the company for a very long time and they make it work, and sometimes you add new members to the team, and they all get together and the company grows. And but if the founding team or the management team have different mindsets, you should know how to resolve the conflicts. You should know how to find a common ground and figure things out. For example, if there is a conflict on patent, you figure out, get your facts straight, and figure out. If you have an issue on strategy, you should have some advisors who could come in and give you additional information for you to make the right decision. So decision making should be aided by the facts, and decision making should be aided by what is your intent on moving forward. So always look at the big picture, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think there's one more question.
Okay. Okay, what are some good passive income opportunities you think people can work on that are just getting started with business?
Right. Well, I think everyone has their own way, and it all depends on the business and your lifestyle. So you have to figure out a way, what supports you, right? Someone can take up a 9 to 5 job that supports them, right? To do their business in during the night, or maybe have a business in garage, or maybe take a small space in an incubator, and that's where they work between I don't know, 6 to 9 in the evening and 5 to 7 in the morning. Or it has to be what you want to do, where you want to be, and depending on that, your living expenses need to be covered, and it might be a 9 to 5 job, or you can get some loan from your parents. That's another thing you could do. Get some loan from family and friends, and start a business. Have the seed round funded from them, and give them a good convertible note where they get a good added value when your company succeeds, and give them equity in the company, so that you don't have to do a job. But having said that, you have to be very creative on your lifestyle. You have to cut corners at times if you want to just focus on your business, and if you want to do certain jobs that might not support your current lifestyle but would help you in the future and have a really great lifestyle that you want to have. So it's about, as I said, it's all about the sacrifices that you want to make right now for the future that you want to have tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you. And let's see, we have another here. To build a good team, what kinds of experts, other than technical experts, do you want to look for while forming a team in the area of biotech?
Well, what you're saying is someone who has technical experience is great as a founder, but you need to have a person who has business expertise as well, because that's the person who will be the face of the company, and that's the person that will go out and raise the funds, and that's the person they'll be investing in. Having said that, of course, investors do invest in technical team as well. It's a perfect combination if you have the right CEO and right team. but definitely I think you need to have that experience, the right experience, from the technical team to your founding team to your management, as well as I said, you need to have the right patent attorney.
Okay, excellent. And here's another from Nathan. As a science-trained person in biology, how is that valuable to other business people and the business community?
Yeah, well, you're talking about biology. I mean, I think we can't get away from it, right? So there are a lot of technologies related to that. I think business community really appreciates a good technology, to be honest with you. Not everyone is as passionate as the technical folks who are doing research on their product because it's their baby. But even the business folks, they like the concept and then they drive on that to get the funds in the company. So I think that's the basis of the company. But then again, the company grows and more elements are added to it. But that's where it all starts. It has to be a good technical research based on good data, and that's what gets funded.
I imagine that you could join the business person, the face of the company, and team to help another party or an investor decide.
Exactly. That's another way, right? I mean, your experience as a technical person is very valued in any R&D startup because believe me, I value my scientists because they are the one who are working hard and they are the one who are doing the research and, brainstorming all the ideas on a daily basis on how things could get better, every day. So, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right. And any other questions from the audience? And it's really outstanding questions because that's all crucial for starting or running a business. Any other questions from audience? This is a good opportunity to ask the questions you always want to resolve. It's a really good opportunity.
Okay. Just a lot of thank yous.
It's a lot of thank you, because you are popular, Abhita.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I think, just let me know. Again, as I said earlier, I'd be happy to look at the technologies that you guys have. Happy to help them in whichever way I can.
And here's one other question here. And I think that Cameron gave a good hint to it, but it is, how can we connect with you beyond this event?
All right. So I think you can connect with me via LinkedIn. That's
LinkedIn.
the most important element right now in my life. And of course, email is another way of connecting with me, and happy to connect with you on a call after that.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it's been so inspirational to have someone with professionalism, your success, and a female. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As a fellow female, you're saying that means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
And any more questions?
Going once.
I just give you 30 seconds. If no more question, well, we don't have. We just provide opportunity for the audience to ask question to the expert. So I have one more question. It's very, very curious. And I know you have mentioned that you want to, to be a business leader at a certain point. And I just wonder, during your career development, or not really pre-career development, is anyone influence you to be as a business leader, or you just decide to be a business leader when you were very young?
Well, I think I've always thought this way. So I would say my parents have been great role models in my life. My mom was a co-founder in the company with him, and she was a professor as well in pharmacy. So, she did manage everything with 3 kids. So, that's an inspiration in its own way. So my parents kind of paved the way for me, making me believe that you can have it all. So I think that was a good foundation for me to start with. And, you always look back and think, what made you think that you can do it all? And, that's where it starts. Your parents, I think, knowingly or unknowingly, somehow they cultivated that thought process in me. That, it's okay. You can do it. So I would credit it to them. But then again, over a course of I don't know how many years, I've met people who've inspired me, and who I learn from on a daily basis. And every individual, according to me, has some great quality that I'd like to adopt and make my life better.
Thank you, Abhita. And any and further questions for Abhita? If there is no more question, and I would say everybody, and well, because we do not meet in person, and we want to show our thank you, and hands up, or do whatever you do.
Thank you, Abhita.
Thank you.
Virtual.
Good job, Abhita.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
so
It's
much.
amazing.
Okay, so
Thank
we'll adjourn the event and today, and thank you very much, everyone, for your participation for the event. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Ma.
Thank you.
Abhita.
Thank you.
Alright.
Dale, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Great work.
Thank you.
Wish I could see it all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.